Hey everybody, John DeYoung here, and today we're going to talk about Zone 2 cardio. Now there's different Zone 2s out there for cycling. This is for cardio for mitochondrial function and health. Okay, so what are mitochondria and what do they do? So mitochondria are cell organelles that generate most of the chemical energy needed to power the cell's biochemical reactions, okay? So the energy produced by the mitochondria is called ATP. That's energy, you've heard of that. So now, ATP is found in all forms of life. It's often referred to as the molecular unit of currency because it powers all metabolic processes, okay? So most ATP is produced in mitochondria through a series of reactions called the Krebs cycle. You might remember that from high school. I kind of do. So the mitochondria convert chemical energy from the food we eat into an energy that the cells can use. This process is called oxidative phosphorylation. Now, any mitochondrial damage that is sustained will accumulate with age and lead to dysfunction. Now, widespread damage to mitochondria causes cells to die because they can no longer produce enough energy. Makes sense. So that's why we're going to do this type of Zone 2 cardio. So this is one of the hallmarks of aging. If you look at what happens to people when they get older, the mitochondria become less and less effective. Most diseases have some degree of mitochondrial dysfunction, especially cancer, diabetes, and some people with Alzheimer's. There's clearly a broken component when the mitochondria go bad. So what can you do in the gym or at home to enhance your mitochondrial function? Zone 2 cardio, that's your answer. Now, Zone 2 is the highest level of energy that you can put out while keeping lactate below 2 millimole. Should be about 1.7, 1.9. Don't worry, I'll explain that in a second. Now this can be measured while exercising if you have a lactate monitor. You know, if you don't mind, you've got to prick your finger during your training. You have to get a lactate monitor, insert that little blood strip. It's a little labor intensive. It's pretty expensive too. Each of those strips, it's kind of pricey, but it'll give you a really accurate level of where you should be because, again, this is Zone 2 cardio. I'm on a bike today because you should be able to have a conversation with someone while doing Zone 2. Not too out of breath. Sometimes you actually have to bring it back. So this is one way of measuring that, staying in the right zone, the lactate monitor. I don't have one, I'm saving up for one. Again, pretty expensive, labor intensive. There are other ways of staying in Zone 2, but for some people it's about 80% of your maximum heart rate. 220 is a given number minus your age, times 0.8, so that would be 80% of your max heart rate. I find that mine is 129, 130. I feel like I'm pushing too hard, so it takes a few weeks. I know now level 7, 75 RPMs. It's keeping me right around 124, 125. I measure with my heart rate monitor, wear a wearable chest strap and a Garmin wristwatch. So for me, it's about 75% of my max heart rate. Also, sometimes some equipment has watts. Watts, the output of energy you're doing on your elliptical or bicycle. So you have to figure out watts per kilo of body weight. So I'm 180 pounds, that's about 81 kilos. Unhealthy people would probably be 1 watt per kilo, so they're looking at 81 watts. That's really unhealthy people. Pro athletes are in the 4 watts per kilo. I think I'm roughly about 2 watts per kilo, okay? This doesn't have watts, but what you could do is get a chest strap and then hook it up to your piece of cardio, whatever you're using. Again, you could use anything. You can even go for like a walk, but then you wouldn't be able to use watts. But if you're using watts, try to stay around 80% of your heart rate, your max heart rate, and then kind of check it with the watts. Basically what that's going to give you is get on your machine, all right, I can do 120 watts for the duration. Or me, I know it's level 7, 78 RPMs for the duration. so you don't have to worry so much about where am I. So this is just to give you an accurate ballpark number where you should be. Now the key is it's for duration. This has to be done, if you're a beginner, fine. Start off 20, 30 minutes a day, probably 2 to 3 days a week. As you get better at it and it becomes not as horrible, I've increased it to 1 hour a day, 3 times a week. It's kind of what you really need. Super important to really feed the mitochondria, oxidize mitochondria, improve mitochondrial function. This is for longevity. Now there are times, probably once or twice a week, you're going to do intervals. You're going to push. You're going to push the interval, push the resistance. You know, super sprints. That's like once or twice a week. The mitochondria level 2 should be about 80% of your cardio, especially for longevity. So 80% is going to be zone 2, 20% will be your intervals. That's going to help you increase your VO2 max, which is another element in longevity, and burn a little more calories as well. But as far as the zone 2, again, you want to stay below a 2 millimole, because what happens is if you go outside of that, basically the byproduct of that is lactate. So you're going to produce all this lactate. That's fine when you do intervals, but when you're trying to enrich the mitochondria, you got to stay. This is great. You're going to stay at moderate output, 80% roughly of your max heart rate. Should be able to have a conversation. That's why I'm on the bike right now. But you actually sometimes catch yourself going a little too fast. So you got to make that 40 minutes to an hour. You know, once you get a certain amount of days or weeks under your belt, or whatever cardio equipment you use. But it's not horrible. It's not going to kill you. It's actually going to help you with longevity. But yeah, the boredom is probably kind of rough. I place my bike in front of the TV, put a game on, God, it goes fast, or whatever, a movie. So basically, the Lactate Monitor, RPMs, heart rate, or the watts are going to give you an idea of where you should be. And then get on that bike, get on that elliptical. You know, duration is really important. You actually want 4 days of an hour of your 80% zone 2 cardio. It's kind of a lot for me, kind of busy. So I'm happy with 3 days a week, an hour at a clip, okay? So again, it's really important to stay in that zone because during cardio and cellular respiration, your body's converting the glucose or fatty acids into ATP or energy. And it's done efficiently with oxygen, keeping in the zone 2. But when the demand for that energy gets higher when you do intervals, it goes outside the mitochondria, you start producing lactate. And again, that's fine for increasing VO2 max, doing intervals, but for mitochondria health, take it easy. 3 days a week, as long as you can do it, and that's going to really help for longevity. Okay, so start today. Find something you can actually start doing. Walks outside first, a brisk walk, being able to talk to somebody next to you, get something for your home. I found this refurbished. Get a piece of cardio and put it in front of the TV and get going. Okay, guys? So check out sometimes the heart rate monitors. Some of these watches are pretty cheap. Garmin sells them. Chest strap is very accurate. Sometimes these machines have heart rate monitors on them. They work well too. Again, 80% of your max heart rate. And good luck. If you have any questions, message me. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And we'll see you soon. Okay? Remember, you should be able to talk while doing your zone 2 cardio. But it's the duration that's going to get you. But you got this. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.